Hello everyone, it's Lindsay, and today I'm back with a flip-through video. I have not done a flip-through of a project in a while, but I thought that would be the easiest way to share this month just due to time constraints and the type of project that I did. So let me know what you think about these down below. I know I don't do them terribly often, but my plan for this one is to do this video, and then as I take my notes throughout the month, I will post still photos over on Instagram. But feel free to pause the video and screenshot things if you want to see, a particular page. But what I'm talking about is this project for the Who You Are devotional kit from ByTheWell4God. This is the devotional that we're working through in the month of September. And I have worked through kits in a variety of different ways, and I've even done this particular method, but I've done things a little bit different this month even than past months. And so this is something that I call a deconstructed devotional. You may have heard me refer to it like that before. Basically, all I'm doing is taking the devotional booklet that comes in the kit, and I deconstruct it and then reassemble it with extra filler pieces and create a kind of journal of sorts with the devotional. Now, in the past, I've used a variety of different binding methods. Typically, what I do is use my cinch machine and a metal coil. The biggest issue with that is that you have to pre-create all of your pages and filler pieces and journaling cards and all of that, have everything ready to go. And then the binding is the very last step that you do, because it's a more permanent, it's not permanent, but it's a more permanent way of binding your devotional or your journal or your booklet, whatever you're doing. And you can't take stuff out, put stuff in. It's not as easy. And so that can be a little bit tricky. I usually just have like this pile of floppy things laying around, and that's not really conducive if it's going to take me multiple weeks to get through something like it did for this. It took me a couple weeks to put this together. And so I have also done individual binder rings, but that is kind of floppy. So I found something new, and this is what I will be doing kind of going forward when I do these styles of devotionals. And so I found these binder ring systems, but it's 3 binder rings all connected together. And so these are great if you're wanting to create your own books. You could find a way to fasten these to the spine of a DIY book or a planner, something like that is kind of what the intention is behind these. But I like that it's 3, so it's a little bit more stable. And these ones, I'll have them linked down below. They come in gold, silver, this kind of tarnished metal type style, a variety of different things. And cost-wise, I think that I can get about 5 journals out of this package if I'm only using 2 sets of these. This would definitely be more stable if I used 3 sets, but for just economic sake, I decided to go ahead and do 2, but you could do 3. And so the nice thing about this is it allows me, just like a binder, a 3-ring binder, but it's 6-ring. I can take stuff out, insert stuff in as I'm working through it. Maybe I'll figure out that something isn't working or is working, and then I can adjust things as I go. And then, you could create this into a booklet with a spine, but I just, I'm a lazy crafter, guys. I know that might come as a surprise, but I like to cut corners and make my life easy. And so I'm just leaving it bare on the outside. I did add a little bit of fabric from the release this month just to create kind of a pretty little bow on the outside, but you could do, tassels or a floofy or charms or all kinds of things on the outside. You could laminate the cover. You could adhere the cover to some like chipboard and create a really stable, front and back cover. There's so many different things that you can do with these journals. And honestly, there's several girls on the team that are phenomenal at making journals, junk journals, that type of thing. Kudos to those girls, because this can be a little bit of a tedious project if it's something that you're not doing all the time. And I'll share some of the tips and tricks I have that made the process a little bit easier. I will forewarn you, I definitely could have gone more in detail. I could have done things differently. I honestly was just trying to get the project done. So now I have everything put together and I can take my notes and work directly in here on the go the rest of the month. So Who You Are from ByTheWell4God is still available. There are still some kits in the shop, so I'll link that down below if you haven't grabbed it yet and you are kind of inspired by this project. Let me just say, I had just about every item from the release, and I barely put a dent into the product putting together this big, fat, chunky notebook. I used a lot of different things. I barely used any stamps, definitely didn't use any like watercolor or anything like that. So I have plenty of product that I could do Bible journaling entries in addition to this. With all of that stuff. So it's just a good way to kind of use up your products. You may even want to go back to past devotionals and do this system with your leftover bits is something you could do. So I call it a deconstructed devotional because what I've done is I have taken the staples out of the devotional booklet and then I cut down the center of each, page layout. And that way I have individual pages. So here's a good example. So this is like the introduction part of the devotional. Typically this would all be adhered together, right? All the pages are stapled. I unstapled it and then I cut the pieces apart. So they're individual pages as to how I did this. And so this is what you'll hear me call a deconstructed devotional. And so I like the idea of this being everything kind of all in one. I'm super busy right now. And so this allows me to kind of throw it in my car, throw it in my bag. I can take it with me, do notes on the go. For those of you who have kiddos in school and you're spending way too much time in the school pickup line, been there, done that. This would be a great way to, work through the devotional study. So I'm just going to kind of flip through and show you some of the ideas that I have in here. Feel free to copy what I have. It would definitely go a lot faster for you. I've already done the thinking and the figuring out. As far as individual products and what I used, check out my What's in My Cart video. That is pretty much, what I pulled from. I used my cart as I was putting this together. Definitely didn't use everything in my cart, but as far as specific dyes go or colors or, just various things like that, check out that What's in My Cart video and you'll find that information there. Again, just for the sake of time, I can't just be like relinking everything, and I'm trying to cut some corners so at least I'm getting some kind of content up for you guys. Things are about to get really wild. If you were following my Instagram this week, you saw my live that I did. I have been praying for 2 years that the Lord would just guide me on the college campus, let me know what he has planned for me. And so I've spent the last 2 years just making individual relationships with people on that campus, but I have the opportunity now to be a part of an organization that is starting a Christian-based club on campus. And they have asked me to be the president of that club and facilitate some girls' studies on campus. I'll be doing an in-person Bible journaling seminar right there on the college campus. Cannot even tell you guys what an answer to prayer that is, but obviously that's going to take a lot of time that honestly, I don't even have a minute to spare as it is right now. So trying to put some of that focus into my local community for this season. And so, there's going to have to be some changes here in the online space. So I'm just trying to figure out how I can still serve you guys, give you guys inspiration, but I'm going to have to cut some corners. That way I'm not just outright, cutting everything out. So bear with me and please pray for me as I go out on this new endeavor. It's just going to be a season. It's not going to be forever, I don't think. I don't know. I say that and then God does crazy things. But at least while I'm on the campus, I'll be participating in that. So all that to say, that's kind of what's going on behind the scenes as I came to this project. So I had pre-highlighted all the verses throughout the devotional before I'd even cut it apart. So you obviously could, do some things different. You can add stickers on this side, you can match your colors. So just keep that in mind. I'm just trying to get this project done is what I was aiming for. So these were some of the journaling cards that came in the freebie pack with the order. I had actually accidentally gotten some popcorn oil on it. I air pop popcorn in olive oil and somehow got oil on this card. So I went ahead and splattered it with some distress ink just to make it look intentional. And I really like this look. So going forward, I will probably add more of this later on. You'll see more stamping, more detail towards the front of the booklet, and then it kind of peters out towards the end. So, that's just how it goes sometimes. This was like a little envelope that I created using a Tim Holtz die. Again, you can find that in that What's in My Cart video. I had some brown packaging paper. So this is a big roll of brown paper that you find in the packaging aisle. You find it at office supply stores, things like that. I actually use it as wrapping paper and then I stamp on it. So I make custom wrapping paper rather than having to have, 50 different rolls of wrapping paper. So I always have some of this in my house. So I die cut a bunch of things. And that's kind of what helps this project go a little bit quicker. So I pre-did a lot of stuff. I pre-cut a lot of, elements. I had like a little container with, pre-cut pieces and envelopes and pockets and just various different things already kind of out on the desk around me. So as I get to a page, I'm trying not to overthink it. I'm just throwing things together. I'm not really fussing. I'm not having to go around my office space to find different things. And so you'll see it might be a little bit repetitive. I definitely have more stuff that I could have put in here. But I was just trying to make this, nice and quick and easy was kind of the point. So did one of those brown envelopes. And then I also had cut some envelopes out of some vellum. Now the problem with vellum is it can be tricky to adhere because you can see the, the adhesive. And also because it's see-through, you can see whatever you put in the envelope. So after I'd already cut them, I was realizing there was gonna be a lot going on here. So I just layered the vellum with the brown paper. You'll see it's 2 separate envelopes. And I am so lazy that I just stapled it shut. I didn't even glue it shut. I did a little bit of stamping with some archival ink. Since I was stamping on vellum, I used archival ink using some of the new stamp sets. Now, these envelopes from Tim Holtz, the Tim Holtz die, are pretty small. And so if you just hole punch directly into this, you lose a lot of space in the envelope. It's already pretty small. So for any inserts like this, I had cut down strips of craft cardstock and I just had those on my desk. And so then I could attach that piece of craft cardstock to the edge of my envelope or card or whatever it is that I'm inserting and give me a space to hole punch without affecting the element that I'm sticking in here. So that's a way to kind of extend out these smaller pieces. You could use pattern paper, all kinds of things. I just like to use something a little bit more stable since it's going to be an interactive piece that you're flipping through. And so these envelopes perfectly fit the word cards. So now I can pull these out and I'll do my word study directly on the back of the cards. I don't always do that, but when I do this type of project, it's just an easier way to do it. Since this binding system is like this, I can always add additional index cards or journaling cards or whatever if I need extra space. But one thing I also do is I pre-cut down a ton of the pattern papers from the pattern paper pack. Now, the pattern papers are 6 inches by 8 inches. I have found that the devotional booklets themselves are about a 1/4 inch taller than the pattern papers. So I went ahead and cut down my devotional pages also. You don't have to do that. In the past, I haven't done that. But when you're hole punching, it makes it easier if all of your larger papers are exactly the same size. So I cut my papers to, I don't know how wide they are. I think it ends up being like 4 1/4 or so, 4 1/4 by 8, I think is what these end up being. And so then I cut down the devotional to 8 inches tall. That way you can see here, the pages are exactly the same. So I pre-cut every single pattern in that paper. I cut at least 1 sheet of paper in that size. And so it makes it very easy to start with a base. And then I just have a package of index cards. These ones are dot grid on one side, blank on the other. I have some lined ones, just various things like that. Slap down a card on the front. Now I've got a journaling space. And then I can go in and kind of add some decorative elements. So I did do some stamping. This is probably the only page I really stamped on. I did a little bit of stamping later on, but a little bit of stamping, used some of the die cuts. I have mentioned, I think in my What's in My Cart video, this system helps tremendously with this type of project as well. So this is one of the, I think they're called DIY gathering boxes from By the Well. I think they still have some of these in the shop. I've painted mine and added all kinds of like detail to it. And then I have an envelope or a file folder for each day of the devotional. And I go through and separate everything. I separate the word cards, any journaling cards, any ephemera pieces that go with that particular day. So when I go to construct this day, I pull out that envelope. I've got all that little pile of whatever needs to go on here. So it was this journaling card, it was the word cards, it was this piece of ephemera. And I know those are all things that need to get incorporated into this day. And so then that kind of helps me figure out exactly how I'm going to tackle the layout. So that's just kind of all practicality ways that kind of help put this together. And then what I did for this particular time, I really like using the stickers that are the titles of each day. And so I tried to put the title somewhere on the like back side, since, you know, I could see it here, but once I get to here, can't see it. So just to have a reminder, stuck that on the back. I could add another index card if I don't want to write directly on here. And then after I put it all together, I decided to go ahead and come back and put in the verse cards. So there was a set of verse cards that you could pick up that comes in this little baggie. It has the binder rings, which these ones happen to match these rings. I don't always use these, but I decided, since there was so much scripture in this month's devotional, I knew I was not going to have time to write out each and every single verse, which I typically do. That is a practice that I do when I'm working through the studies. I find it very, very helpful for getting scripture in, like, memorizing scripture, is to hand write it out, but there was just so many. So I did go ahead and just insert the verse cards as a journaling card. So if I did want to journal in the back of here, obviously I would need to add, you know, some kind of paper or something to write on, but I don't necessarily have to. I do have some journaling space down here, journaling space here, journaling space here, journaling space. So you see there's a lot of places that I can write for just this first day of the devotional. So second day, I like to use larger ephemera pieces as a pocket element. So I'm only adhering it down on 3 edges. And then now I have a pocket where I can stick my flashcards in there. And I can do those word studies. I did a little bit of stickers. This is probably the only place where I really put alphabet stickers. It's a little bit tedious for me to use these. So as I get going in the booklet, I don't use them as much. I don't know. If you are not running a YouTube channel and a social media influence type thing, I would say, like, set up your whole booklet, and then you could have like a whole nother month. You know, you could take a month to set up the booklet and then a month to work through it is kind of probably the speed that I would actually do this in. But for your guys' sake, I was trying to get it done pretty quick so you could see. So again, just pattern paper as the foundation. On the back side, I just have some graph paper that I've cut down using some of the clear stickers on there. Trying to use up the journaling cards. So journaling cards just give me an additional space to take notes. I had pre-cut some of these Tim Holtz border dies out of the pattern papers, and I just have those laying in a pile. And so I can snip them down and use these for tabs, little grab spots. The journaling cards, you know, in comparison to the rest of the page, are a little bit small. So, you know, this just makes it, you know, have more real estate to grab a hold of as you're flipping through the booklet. And then I've got verse cards. So here's where, you know, it's helpful if you've got that third set in here. It's not quite as wiggly and floppy. And I kind of dealt with it some other ways towards the end of the book, but this is supposed to be messy is kind of my way of approaching this. There was lots of verses for this day. So I've got all those. I can take notes on the back if I want to. Going into day 3, another verse card. Here I had created some pockets out of that brown packaging paper, and I had sprayed it with some distress spray stains, distress oxide sprays. So I had a pile of those on the desk that had already been pre-colored in some neutrals with a little bit of color from the kit, so it wouldn't be too hard to, you know, mix and match things. I pre-cut out a ton of these small doily dies using that brown packaging paper, and then I added some stamp detail to it. So you can see really just a lot of base foundational items and then just adding little bits and pieces as you put it together. So created a cluster. The pocket houses my verse cards. I did add some of these leaf dies. Again, you can find these dies in that What's in My Cart video. Backside, again, repeating some of the same things that have been working on previous days. Journaling cards. So sometimes I'll add just a little swatch of fabric to give me just some texture, break things up, and give me somewhere to hold on to. Again, super lazy. I'm just stapling it. I mean, you could stitch it, but my sewing machine's on the other side of the room. So when I get going, I'm not walking over there to stitch things. I'm just stapling. Verse cards. So here you can see I started putting them towards the center They're a little bit more stable. One thing you need to keep in mind while you're putting this together is you have to kind of keep things balanced out. If you only ever put things down towards the bottom, it's going to get really fat at the bottom. If you only put things up at the top, it's going to get really fat at the top. So you kind of have to keep things vibrating between the top and the bottom to keep it, you know, kind of even throughout the booklet. I don't know, it just is a little bit easier. It works a little bit better if you do that. And again, you know, if I needed additional space to journal, I can always add extra cards in here to write on. So verse cards, here is another one of those envelopes. I did do a little bit of texture stamping with some Distress Oxide ink, and then I spritzed it so that it activated the oxide aspect. So then you can see that on the envelope. Used one of the journaling cards just as a layering element. So it's adhered down just to kind of break things up. Little bit of fabric. This I did stitch, so obviously I was feeling like I had a little extra time at that moment. Graph paper on the back, lots of room to journal. Another one of those freebie journaling cards with a little bit of fabric. So you can see, you just kind of get in a repetitive, you know, type mode here. Verse cards. This was one of the examples I had from my unboxing video. I showed you guys how to use, or how I had embossed on paper using the stencil. So that was a sample piece that I had created for that video, and then I just had it laying on my desk, so I tore it apart, added a little bit of Distress ink to it, and used it as a layering element. This is one of the journaling cards that are front and back. It's like one of these, and then it has this on the back. So I just adhered it directly down, gave me a journaling spot. One of those doilies again. So you can see I really could have gone in and Distress inked all of the edges of everything so it was all cohesive, but girlfriend was too lazy for that. But that is something you could do. This is just one of those index cards with one of those border strips, few stickers, call it good. And it really lets you see that pattern paper. So this is the way to use up those pattern papers. This one, I don't know how I feel about it. There's some things I like about it, not sure. It's one of those freebie journaling cards, and I used one of these leaf dies as the tab. So there's that. Putting the flashcards directly in here, and then with a little bit of fabric on there. So a variety of different ways that you can put those into that booklet. Moving right along, just more kind of clustering. I do also cut apart these stickers. So this was stickers that came in the devotional kit. I cut those out and put them in their corresponding folder with the day. So I knew that that went with this particular day of the devotional. This here was just using like a label, Tim Holtz labels die with one of the clear stickers. So, you know, the goal of this is to give you room to journal. So, you know, all the extra is just that, it's extra. I'm wanting to give myself room to take notes. Same thing on the back here, just index card, some ephemera and stickers. This was one of the little coin pockets. I think this is from the collector die set from Tim Holtz. So this was early on in my construction that I created this, and I inserted it later on in the booklet, but cut it out of that brown paper, and then I had used the new stamp set, this one, Flowing Flowers. So I had stamped and embossed it in clear embossing powder, and then I used Distress watercolor pencils to color it in. So this was a piece that I definitely spent more time on than the other pieces. This die set comes with a little coin pocket die, and then it also has little inserts so that you can cut like a window out of it. So I cut that window, just used some plastic packaging that, you know, was from the unboxing video to create a little window. And then now I have a place to store my flashcards right in there. So I really like these. I wish I had done more of those, but I hadn't pre-cut a ton of those. So I didn't get as many of those in this booklet just because I was lazy and I hadn't cut more of those out. But they fit really nice in here just with the dimensions of those. They're a lot more stable and they're a little bit more secure for holding your cards. So going in the future, I'll probably do a lot more of those in a project like this. And then just verse cards. as journaling spots and just places to have the verses. Okay, here's where I started incorporating some of the file folders. So you guys have seen me do this in the past where I create like a mini book out of the file folders. So this is one of the file folders, if you can see it there. And then I put a piece of dyed paper on the inside, ran it through my sewing machine right down the center, and then now I have a mini book within a book to take extra notes. So, I kind of try to glance over the devotional day to kind of see if it's a topic that I think I'm going to need extra notes. But again, the nice thing about the system is I can move things around if I want to, add extra things in. So it's not, critical. There was a little bit of an error with the cutting of these file folders. So if you got a set where the edge is cracking, you can always reach out to ByTheWell4God, and they will take care of you. But I don't like to waste things. And so yes, I think that we should get what we pay for, but I also don't want to just throw something away and waste it. And I don't know that many customers got these ones, but in case you do ever have an issue with cracking, I just used the washi tape sticker to reinforce the edge of my file folder, and it's good to go. And in fact, I probably would do that no matter what the file folder was made out of. And so now I don't have to worry about the cracking. It also kind of reinforces it since I did the stitching down the center. And then because of the way this is, I don't want to lose the mechanism of the book. I did adhere it to a piece of that craft cardstock before I inserted it in. And then on the back, I'm just trying to use things up. So adding die cuts. I have the little clear sticker in there. And then just some of the verse cards, word cards. So lots of journaling space for that particular day. I recently did an in-depth study video on my channel about this passage in John chapter 15. And so I imagine I could incorporate a lot of those notes into that day. Is why I did that. All right, day 8, verse cards, and then a little cluster, cut down an index card. This is one of the die cuts in the pack. Using another one of those pockets for the flashcards, using the journaling card just as a spot to stick the sticker. I mean, I could go in there and take notes on there if I want to. But don't have to. I like to layer up, die cuts over the top of things. This one's kind of being fussy. Just being fussy, not wanting to go in there. Okay. Another journaling card with some more of that border die as a tab. You could punch tabs out and use those as well. Day 9. Pretty simple. I really loved this hymnal paper. So I just adhered down a journaling card, have a couple of little leaves, another little doily there. And on the back side, there is a index card. And then here's another one of those pockets using an ephemera piece. So only adhering down on, this is 2 sides and a little bit right here is glued. It creates a little tuck spot for my flashcards. So I can pull these out, I can write all on here, and then have my little cards in there. It's okay if it covers up my writing. The idea is that this is for my note taking. Also paying attention to the cards before you hole punch. So this was one of the verse cards that came in the devotional kit. And typically I would have it facing like how you see this one facing. But I realized if I hole punch this, I would be hole punching directly into the words. So I went ahead and just did it backwards this way. So I can take my notes here, and then I've got my verse on this side. Nobody says that there's rules that it has to be a certain way. This is meant to be, to help you study is kind of the purpose of this. Day 10, I have another envelope. This one was using that sunflower stamp with some Distress Oxide inks. This one's just on the craft or on that packaging paper. Tucked in my little cards. These envelopes are on the looser side. They're meant to be loose so you can stuff a lot of stuff in there. So I do like to kind of loosely close the flap when I close the book. That way I don't have to worry about my flashcards, coming out. If you're worried about that, you could use like a Velcro fastener. You could use a little bit of washi tape there. You could use a brad, various different closure mechanisms if you're really concerned about it. I'm not too terribly concerned about it falling out. Here's where I kind of switched up with the verse cards. So they were just kind of getting chunky. I wasn't liking how they're being floppy in the book. So, and I was also getting lazy. We're at day 10. This is where I hit roadblock and I'm just trying to get the project done. So I had my pre-cut out pattern paper and then I just adhered verse cards directly onto the paper. So like I said, I like having all the verses right there where I can see them next to the devotional content. And so if I need journaling space, I can add cards in here. But here I just stuck it down, called it good. This page is definitely nice and thick. Here's another one of those file folder booklets, just using a singular piece of paper in there that I can take notes in. Another little place to stick stickers. So here's the branding from one of those clear stickers. I put that on the tab there. So really gives you lots of, little places to put details if you want to. Using some of that clear washi tape sticker to reinforce the binding, attached it to some craft cardstock before hole punching. Here is where you can see I just glue it right to the front. Nothing fancy. Yeah, super, super, super simple. So there's that one. Day 11, again, just adhering verse cards down to the pattern paper. Here I put one of the verse cards and then I did a journaling spot up at the top here, giving myself place to add some die cuts. So I had some of the pattern. So I realized I was reaching the end of the book, right? And so I had some of these pre-cut pages and I just folded that in half and adhered glue on 3 sides and created a pocket out of pattern paper. Does not have to be fancy. Used a circle hole punch to punch a little finger spot. And so now I have like a little pocket that I can put my journaling cards in. I can put my flashcards in there. And because this is one that I'm creating out of the pattern paper, I didn't have to worry about adding it to another piece of craft cardstock. So I just hole punched it and then kind of measured out, how wide I wanted it, for the sake of the cards. Add a little bit of fabric to those so they, if they fall down in there, or it kind of keeps them from falling too far into the pocket. And then you can stick all kinds of stuff in there. Another verse card, journaling spot. Day 12, I did another one of those pockets. Again, it's okay to repeat things. If it works, it works. So this one I did a little bit larger so that the verse cards would fit. So this particular day had several verse cards. So I went ahead and I was kind of running out of ideas and ways to incorporate these into the booklet, to be honest. So there we go, created a pocket. This was one of the clip cards. So even the clippy cards I put in the file folder for the particular day that they go along with. So this was for day 12. Just layered a little bit of that border die on there, a little die cut on the back. Here is creating a pocket out of journaling cards. So taking 2 of the journaling cards, putting glue on 3 sides, so top, bottom, and 1 edge, stick it together, punch a little half circle. And now I have a smaller version of this pocket with the journaling cards. And so now I can stick my flashcards in there. So it's a different way. If you don't have the dies to do the envelopes, use the journaling cards to create pockets. I can go back, and I may go back and add some kind of fabric or something to those to create pull tabs that make them so they're easy to pull out. But I didn't have to do anything to that. It's already done. I don't have to add die cuts or anything. Super, super lazy. Just taking an index card, some of the clear stickers, some of the leftover border die. Now I've got a journaling card. Super simple. Can you tell I'm getting towards the end? Because I'm like, just stick stuff in there. Day 13, just sticking down verse cards directly to the pattern paper. Index card with some of the die cuts. Again, another one of those journaling card pockets. So using a circle punch to create a little finger spot. This one I did the decorative element on the front and then a journaling spot on the back. And then I've got my verse or flashcards, I should say. These are flashcards. Cut apart the border die to create some tabs. You know, you could size these so you don't have to add things to them, but you know, sometimes things kind of like stick down or fall down into your pockets. So, and it just adds, you know, another fun texture and detail on there. Day 14. Can you tell us the very last day? I may come back and add some other things here, but I had like a little remnant of pattern paper on my desk. So I cut that down and backed it with an index card, used one of the flashcards for the day and just cut out the label. It wasn't until day 14 that I remembered that I could do that I could just cut out the label. So I probably would have done more of these throughout the booklet, and I can go back and do that. You know, any of these that were in pockets like these, I could cut this out, add it to a journaling card, you know, and not have to have it in a pocket if I didn't want to. But added that to the back, so now I can do my word study. Use a little bit of that border die. And then, of course, I've got journaling room here, but if I needed more, I could add more there. And then, yeah, and that was a conclusion day. So I didn't really feel like I was going to need a whole lot of journaling on that particular day. And then that's it. So there's a look at my pretty much finished. I mean, it doesn't have my notes in there yet, but deconstructed devotional journal that I did for Who You Are. Again, if you want to know specifics about dies or things that I use like that, check out my What's in My Cart video for this particular month, and you'll find all of those supplies in that video. My unboxing video, if you want to see the release in its entirety to see what comes in it. I'm sure many things have sold out at this point, but the kits are still available if you wanted to grab one and do something like this. So I don't know. What do you think about a project like this? Leave me a comment down below if you have any questions, need something, you know, specified, let me know down there. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.